So, what has Excelsior's domain been picking up from eBay? Let's have a look.
So I'm going through a little bit of a Star Trek phase again at the moment, and you might possibly remember that I picked up this Legends of Star Trek package from one of the toy fairs that I went to a little while ago now, actually, from Doncaster, because I'd never seen them before, and it caught my eye because, as you will probably know, I'm a collector of Eaglemoss, Star Trek and other starships, and I'd never seen this before, so it said, it was kind of, it mentioned that it was sort of die cast, and I thought, yeah, great, looks cool. I'm gonna have a little look, and they go for quite a lot on eBay. They're not actually that cheap to get, possibly because they weren't massively readily available. I'm not quite sure. And the funny thing was that this company RC2 is responsible for them. They've actually since been bought by Tomy, and it turns out that Tomy also bought Ertl, who also once made die-cast Star Trek starships. So it's just a sort of curious little quirk of fate that they've both ended up under the Tomy banner. In fact, I think RC2 also bought AMT at one point, who used to do the plastic model kits with AMT Ertl. So it's a sort of a tangled web. But I spotted this chap on an auction, and of course this is the USS Reliant from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, the original one, NCC-1864. What surprised me, because I hadn't had one of these Johnny Lightnings out of the packet before, was that it was the opposite of the approach that Eaglemoss models take. Just for reference purposes, this is what the Eaglemoss version of the Reliant looks like. It's helpfully detached itself from its stand, which it seems to be doing quite a lot, so perhaps I should look for a replacement one, but let me just quickly show you this one. Now, the Eaglemoss models they have quite a sort of weighty base stand. I'm not even sure what's in it, but generally speaking, the Eaglemoss models are a combination of a good chunk of die cast in the vast majority of them, and then plastic for sort of outer elements like the nacelles there. And so as you can see, the Johnny Lightning version is a little bit smaller. Not massively, but a little bit. But the overall detailing of it, I quite like. It's got the registry number. It's got a good bit of sort of color to it. It's quite bright. The colors kind of pop. But obviously, overall, I would say that the Eaglemoss would have it on sort of overall level of quality. Let me just, it's determined to chuck itself off its stand. So I'll just show you them side by side there. But the thing is, this model is completely plastic. That really surprised me for the amount that people ask for these models. The stand, however, is metal. So they went the sort of almost the opposite way compared with Eaglemoss. They've made the stand some sort of metal alloy. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Eaglemoss base units, which are completely standard across the range, they are very, very sturdy. They are quite heavy, but I think this metal stand is actually heavier. So they must have just chosen, I think, to do a sort of communicator style stand for their little ships, but they went for plastic as the material for the ships themselves. And I guess it must have kept costs down for them, because obviously the plastic would be cheaper to do than the metal for the ships itself. But I'm a little bit disappointed. I mean, when I look at the packaging for it, it does say it includes die-cast posable display stand. It doesn't say it includes a die-cast ship. So you can't really complain that you're not getting what you paid for, because you are. But by the same token, I am surprised that they went down that particular route. Now, as I say, I don't dislike the model of the Reliant at all. It's a perfectly reasonable representation of the Reliant. I just find it odd that it's completely plasticky. I'm having a closer look at it, and it does lack a certain level of detail that the Eaglemoss does have. So the Eaglemoss has sort of an Aztecing on the whole, which is better. But as I say, in fairness to the Johnny Lightning version, it probably does include some of the small detail that the Eaglemoss model has, and the sort of the writing and so on, the text is there. So it's not unreasonable. I just don't know quite why they're quite so expensive, albeit the ones I tend to see are in their original packaging. So maybe that's kind of where the sort of cost element is coming from. I'm just going to remove this one that's being slightly sort of annoying and not staying where it should, because I just want to show you I want to show you the two extremes of size that you can get the Reliant in. And this is where having this new radio mic comes in handy, because I can keep talking whilst I'm moving around the room. This stand for this Reliant is crazy bad. Okay, so now this little guy is the Micro Machines version of the Reliant, and as you can see, he's a wee lad. But compare him to that. I mean, obviously there was a distinct size difference there. But it's probably about half the size. But do you know what? The thing that I love about the Micro Machines is they've still tried to get the registry number on there, and they've still got a decent amount of surface detail on the hull. It's still, and I even quite like the color of it. I'm not sure it's entirely screen accurate, but I quite like what they've tried to do there. And then it looks, if I see that, I immediately think that's the Reliant. I don't have any issues with it at all. So you've got to give them kudos for trying at such a small scale to make something that actually is a good solid representation of the Reliant. Now, if we go to the other extreme here, it's got this little stand, but the stand is a bit stubborn in terms of it staying put on top of it. Let's go to the other extreme. Now, there are, of course, model kits, which, as I mentioned earlier, actually, AMT Ertl model kits and Polar Lights kits and so on that you can get of ships like this, of the sort of the hero ships. But I am not a model kit maker. It's not really my thing. So I tend to get nice big pre-made stuff like this. This is the Eaglemoss XL size Reliant. And as you can see, this is another sort of, considerable step up from the smaller standard sized Eaglemoss. And it is a thing of beauty. It's, it's very, very detailed. It's just lovely. But it's, of course, the thing is, given its overall weight, you wouldn't really want to be flying that one around. They're definitely not toys. They are intended to be displayed on their nice see-through stands and look as if they're zipping about the cosmos. This is not something that you would want a child playing with, because they are, with the best will in the world, going to destroy it. But those are really amongst your options in terms of getting hold of a decent sized pre-painted, pre-made Reliant. And I had a little look when I was thinking about doing this video, and I couldn't find a Diamond Select or anyone else doing, even Playmates in fact, doing a Reliant that was this sort of Eaglemoss XL size as a toy. Which I found puzzling, and I was trying to think, why have they not done it? Because it's a really interesting ship. The Miranda class has been used in countless Star Trek: The Next Generation episodes since The Wrath of Khan, and it is, a very, very sort of stock ship that is used in the series, after the original series. So it puzzles me that no one's done the Reliant as as an enemy ship for the Enterprise, because you would really think that they would have done that. So if anyone knows the answer to that one, I would love to hear it. I don't know whether or not the name Reliant is used by too many other things in too many other places. I don't know. I really don't know what the issue is with it, because I would, as I say, I would expect them to be all over it, because it's such an iconic ship in Star Trek 2 that, you know, a lot of people would I'm sure really like to own it, and yet for some strange reason you just don't see it as a toy. I have seen what I did find today, actually, which I didn't know existed before, so that was obviously a strategic error on my part, was that Hot Wheels did some Star Trek ships as well. And I do have a tiny Vengeance. I don't have it to hand, actually, but I do have a Vengeance from the more modern films that was Hot Wheels. And I may even have an Enterprise somewhere, actually, as well. But they seem to have done a sort of what I call them retro line, I suppose so. So there is that option as well, if you can find one, and they don't seem to be terribly cheap, and they don't seem to be in the UK either. They seem to be primarily available in America. So again, it's kind of one of those strange ones where I don't really understand why more people haven't made the Reliant. I mean, you can find other Mirandas in the Eaglemoss lineup as well, because, as I say, you know, they do get recycled a lot as fairly sort of standard Starfleet ships of this kind of time frame, you know. But that was just what I wanted to show you, really. So if you were considering getting a Johnny Lightning set together, you know, as I say, they wouldn't be cheap on cards, but I just don't see why you would if plastic models are not your thing, because I really thought, having given my experience of Eaglemoss, that Johnny Lightning would have been die-cast models. You see, my expectations were set a long time ago, because I had these growing up, and even these from Ertl are largely metal. So that's the Excelsior, and its body, apart from the nacelles, is metal. So I really assumed that Johnny Lightning, being a sort of a modern toy, would actually have gone down the die-cast route, and it didn't for some reason. So I would be very interested to hear people's theories as to why we don't have more Reliants outside of the model kits as toys. And, you know, what do you think of them doing it as a plastic thing rather than at least mixing some die-cast in there to give it a bit more strength and so on? You know, is it because it's just a toy? And if it's just a toy, you know, would kids of this era actually buy starships? And that's an open question, because, you know, I don't think my son would. But for me, growing up, I absolutely loved it because I love the Star Trek films. But now, of course, I guess science fiction is a much broader scheme of shows and films and everything else. So it's kind of, maybe it's so diluted that it's not that big of their growing up times anymore. I don't know. But obviously, you know, let me know in the comments. And just thought I'd do that one because it was on my mind. So I've got other Star Trek stuff in the works, and I'm smiling quietly to myself because I'm looking to my left and thinking, yeah, I've got a lot of Star Trek stuff in the works at the moment. But I'll show you those in due course. I'm off out to Cromford this weekend. I'm going to put this out in my normal Thursday slot, and then I'll try and pull some more videos together post Cromford for you. And I will keep on trying to catch up with my backlog as well. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe as ever if you haven't, and cheers for now.